Yo, it's July 1998. Welcome back to Tape Deck Selects. What up, y'all? It's your boy Lil Pooba, back again with another episode of Tape Deck Selects, and this time we're getting into July. July was a hot month, but I'm really only focusing on a couple of artists, a couple of albums for the month. Let's get right into it. July 7th of 1998. Fast forward, we are celebrating 27 years of Noreaga's first debut album, Noreaga. Actually, no, it was called N.O.R.E. Album came out on Penalty Records / Tommy Boy, old school record labels. I'm not even sure if they're still around anymore, but Tommy Boy produced a whole lot of artists around the time, produced a whole lot of good albums, I should say, around the time. This is also N.O.R.E's first debut album after the smash hood success of Capone and Noreaga's War Report. CNN, if y'all ain't familiar with that, go back, check that out too. So this album was a mix of like street and gritty meets mainstream, you know, because if you go back and listen to CNN, the War Report, all of that was pretty gritty. It told a very, very cold tale of living in Lefrak City, Queens. Or was it Lefrak? I think I was listening to his podcast the other day and he said it was pronounced Lefrak. But we all know, we call it Lefrak. Anyway, that album gave you a real cold, hard, just nasty, ill beats, ill rhymes, a combination of him and Capone together. That album was a classic. Due to some technical difficulties beyond Capone's control, they wasn't able to drop another CNN album until much later, but N.O.R.E. decided to push forward and he gave us Noreaga. N.O.R.E. also gave you some early appearances from producers like the Neptunes and Swiss Beats, because they was coming up at the time too. And one of the beats that definitely came across everybody's radar that was super hot was a track called Super Thug, or like everybody else called it, What. I'm always going to consider this cover of The Source the very first dope freshman cover, because it included everybody who was hot. Everybody who was included on that album cover is legendary right now. You had the likes of DMX, Corrupt, Silk the Shocker, No Limit Run, Big Pun, Capadonna, Cannabis, Lord Tariq, Peter Guns, 8 Ball from 8 Ball and MJG. I'm not going to spend too much time on that Source cover, but Noreaga was also involved in that album cover as well. Not album cover, but Noreaga was also involved in that Source cover too. We're going to check that one out a little bit later. If you're going to go back and you're going to listen to that album, tracks that's going to stand out clearly are going to be like Banned from TV, which is like one of the illest posse cuts of all time. Banned from TV had Big Pun, Cameron, Jadakiss and Styles, Nature. I think that was it, but that was one of the dopest posse cuts in hip hop history. N.O.R.E. gave that to us. Another track that was pretty dope that everybody kind of like, fell into was, when I really sit back and think about it, I believe the name of the track was called N.O.R.E. Like that was like the lead single, and I think that joint was done by the Trackmasters as well. Yeah. So when you guys need an opportunity, check that out, because that's one of the dopest tracks on there too. Just so we can recap real quick, let me give you guys the rundown of the dopest tracks that I think was on that album. Some of the dopest tracks that I thought was on that album was Super Thug, Banned from TV, N.O.R.E, The Change, I Love My Life. And I'm gonna pick those to be the ones that really stand out for me on that album, because this is 1998, so 1997, Wu-Tang had the summer on lock. But this summer, N.O.R.E definitely led the charge with his album that he dropped back on July 7th, what have you. So again, like I said, this is absolutely etched in my childhood, this album right here. And it gave us the birth of N.O.R.E. Like N.O.R.E is doing wonderful things right now. He's dropped several albums after that. This goes on the classic list for us. For me anyway, I'm not gonna say for us, but for me it goes on the classic list. And then the second album also goes on the classic list too. But we'll get into that when the time comes. Like I said, Trackmasters was on that album as far as production was concerned. We got an early taste of the Neptunes on that album. With Super Thug and things like that. But the other producers who was on that joint, you had Marley Marr, Easy LP, LES, and that was pretty much it for all the big dog heavy hitters on that album. I'm not 100% sure, because usually when you got Queens rappers and stuff like that, Large Pro is involved. I'm not 100% sure. He may have been on some of the production on the album. I gotta go back and double check, but we'll get back into that a little bit later too. N.O.R.E, again, coming from the first taste, like, CNN, War Report and stuff like that. N.O.R.E actually gave us more of a comedic style when it came to his rap. It was still gritty, it was still hard, because of what he was saying and his voice and the beats and everything like that. But we all know N.O.R.E to be a pretty funny guy. And he tied all of that into his album when he gave us that and like skits and everything like that. So that was a good punch right there for them too. It's a real good fit for like the late 90s NYC type of album feel, you know what I'm saying? Also, The Source gave it 4 mics, and that's pretty high. If you know anything about The Source back in the day, The Source was the Bible for all of this stuff that I'm pulling up right now. It gave him 4 mics, which is pretty damn good. And I think that also made people go out there and want to check it out too, because 4 mics was pretty high. Like, Noreaga 4 mics. Let's see what we got going on here. How do you guys feel about it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you feel like it was underrated, or do you feel like it was overrated? Let me know in the comments, all right? As far as N.O.R.E's legacy goes, he helped launch the Neptunes, gave them their little mainstream run, elevated N.O.R.E to solo stardom, bottom line, you know what I'm saying? It was the blueprint for like the grimy, accessible East Coast rap too, because, it was out there at the time, but, N.O.R.E really kind of shot out there, #1 with a bullet, kind of, sort of, you know what I mean? And I think N.O.R.E still get love from like all the Queens heads, all the NYC heads, all the, just New York, East Coast period. N.O.R.E is one of those guys. But I'm going to wrap up this review, man. I hope you learned something. I hope you go back and check it out. You know what I'm saying? 27 years of N.O.R.E. Let's give him a round of applause for that, because he's still out here doing this thing. Again, the podcast, everything he got going on. I'm going to wrap this one up, but there definitely will be more content. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll be back with another review at another time. All right, peace.